This is the best thing ever. Oh my goodness. They made another one.
Woody, he's been my pal for as long as I can remember.
Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, toys and girls, welcome to the very first video of the very first Toy Story month. I'm really excited. This is a big deal. Now, something I've been trying to figure out since I started Toy Story month was, how do I start this off with a bang, right? What is the one thing I can share with you at the very beginning to kind of explain why I love Toy Story so much and what it's done for me? Like, what can I share with you that can accurately explain how much Toy Story has affected me and kind of changed my whole view on movies and on comics and almost everything? And I think I found it. And this is it. The first ever Toy Story comic from January of 1996. I found this book in a small little bookstore somewhere once, and I've honestly only just recently decided to go ahead and read through it. But what I found was really, really interesting. I'm excited to tell you about it. So let's hop in. Alright, so have you seen the first movie? Good, then you know the story and we can skip this part. Alright, now let's get the big one out of the way. The art is all just screenshots and promo images from the film, which means that while the art, I can't say it's bad because it's movie quality, it is very limiting. It means that all of the panels are going to be squares and rectangles, which kind of gets boring to look at. For example, let's compare a 2-page spread from this book with just a random comic book that I have. You can see that since this book is all squares, it doesn't really grab your attention as well as this random book that isn't just squares. I mean, we haven't done just squares since forever. And when it comes to writing, it's very obvious that this was a book written for kids. Simple sentences and simplified vocabulary are everywhere and make the book, if not uninteresting, very easy to read. As a consequence of these two things, the pacing of this book suffers quite a bit. Pretty much all dialogue scenes are abbreviated, no matter how important or substantial they might be to the actual plot of the story. Woody explaining the theme of the movie? Abbreviated. Buzz Lightyear's dramatic introduction takes 1/8 of a page. And Woody and Buzz's heart-to-heart inside of Sid's room takes place in the span of 3 panels. So let's recap. The art is limiting, the writing is very, very simple, and the narrative is a nightmare. So why did I build this up as a good experience at the beginning of this video? Well, let me tell you a story. I finally opened up this book, and the very first thing that pops up is this ad for super baggy jeans. And I just thought that this was absolutely hilarious. And then I had the thought, wait, in 1996, this was how my parents dressed me. I had to dress like this. And I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. And that kind of feeling just kind of went throughout the entire book. And then I get to the end, and they have Locker Mate. I remember Locker Mate. I remember thinking that was the coolest thing. I mean, you could do everything. You could store phone numbers. It was a calendar. Nothing can do that. Except, you know, everything now. But it was a big deal back then. And as I read through this book, chuckling at the absurdity of the ads, the absurdity of the writing and stuff, I realized this was a book that was made for me, right? Like this was the book that said, hey, the kids that are born from this time to this time, this is our target audience for this book. This book kind of grew up with me, and that was an interesting thought to have. In short, Toy Story is a reminder of kind of where I came from, to an extent, right? It's a reminder of simpler, more laid-back times, times when I didn't have to worry about as much stuff. And as I've gotten older, And as more Toy Story movies have come out, it's kind of helped shape where I wanted to go career-wise, as well as help me change the way I think about movies and comic books and literature in general. It's done a lot for me. And so, the first Toy Story, yeah, it reminds me of where I come from. And this reminds me of the first Toy Story. It's a fun little time capsule of 1996 and what it was like to live at that time, and what kids were worried about and what kids weren't worried about. I think that's really cool. So to you, this book may not be very important. It may not be very good. But to me, it's a reminder. It's a nice little memento, and it is a welcome addition to my collection. And if you think it might be a welcome addition to your collection as well, then you're in luck. It's actually relatively easy to find as far as Toy Story comics go. So you can get this one, which was published in the Disney Comic Hits magazine line as issue number 4. It was also reprinted as its own series, parts 1 and 2. So you can look out for that there. And if you liked it, or you're willing to see what other kinds of comics Disney was coming out at this time, I would totally recommend you check out the rest of the Disney Comic Kids line. They have some interesting stuff there. Covers Pocahontas, The Lion King, the Timon and Pumbaa cartoon, for those of you who remember that gem, as well as more Toy Story stories. Toy Story stories. Toy Stories? I think that's a plural. Is that the plural? Yes? Okay, so looks like that's the plural form of Toy Story, Toy Stories. Anyway, so go ahead and put in the comments down below what you think of this book, as well as, is there an item out there that kind of reminds you of what it was like to be a kid? Go ahead and put it down in the comments below, and as always, until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and remember to always be your best self.